Work-life balance is something that we hear about all the time, and it is something that we all want. Now, some people believe that work-life balance is a complete myth, while on the other side we have people who think that it's completely attainable. I believe that it's probably somewhere in the middle. Yes, we can have a life balance, but no, it is not going to be perfect, and it's going to look differently from day to day, and it's going to look differently from person to person. So let's talk about 7 different ways how we can be more effective in balancing our career and our family time. Hi, my name is Marta and welcome to my channel. The content on my channel that you can expect to see is anything related to help you find your own version of life balance and fulfillment without feeling the mom guilt. So if this is something you are interested in and you are new here, make sure you subscribe down below. And if you are already subscribed, welcome back. So the very first tip I have for you if you are trying to be more effective in balancing your career and family time is to set realistic expectations. Because if the picture that you have in your head of a work-life balance is one when you go to work for 8 hours and you just clock out and then go spend time with your family, and it is that picture perfect every single day, you need to edit that picture by a lot. Because that expectation is definitely not realistic. Sure, you're gonna have some days that look like that, but in general, that is not the case. And let's make something else clear. We cannot have everything and have it at the same time. Why? Because we are not robots. We have to set realistic expectations, we're gonna have to make some sacrifice, and we're gonna have to let some things go. And I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into that area of how we can let some things go and make some sacrifices later on in this video. You have to look at work-life balance from a high-level perspective. So for example, if you were to evaluate your past month, how would you grade yourself on your work-life balance? How happy were you during that month with the time you spent at your career and the time you spent at home? And that's how we need to look at work-life balance, not at the micro level, at the daily level, but more so from a monthly or even quarterly perspective, depending on what type of career you have. So don't have this Instagram perfect picture in your head of how a work-life balance should look like. Because if you set that unrealistic expectation, you're gonna end up feeling unfulfilled, inadequate, and then the mom guilt is gonna be through the roof. My second tip of being more effective in work-life balance is to make sure that you are creating your own version of work-life balance. I think one of the biggest pitfalls is when we are trying to create a life balance based on somebody else's version of what life balance should look like. We simply need to quit comparing ourselves to others. Our lifestyles are different, our personalities are different, our family dynamics are not the same, so we cannot expect whatever works for somebody else to work for us as well. So the work-life balance that you create must be tailored to you and your family's needs. If you try to fit your family into somebody else's idea of work-life balance, you are gonna end up unfulfilled and you are not gonna feel balanced at all. So let's dive a little bit deeper and talk about how you can create your own version of life balance. And that leads me to tip number 3, and that is to set priorities and non-negotiables as far as your family is concerned. So when we think about balancing between career and family, let's start with family. Let's think about what are some non-negotiables when it comes to your family time. So maybe the non-negotiable for you is that you need to spend holidays with your family. So you're not gonna travel, you're not gonna work on holidays, that is your non-negotiable. Or maybe your non-negotiable is that you want to be there at home to send your kids off to school. That is your time as a family and you don't wanna miss it for any reason. That is your non-negotiable. Or maybe your non-negotiable is when it comes to some sporting events and you wanna be present for every single one of them. Obviously, those non-negotiables are going to be different from one family to another. And once you have those non-negotiables, then you can sit down also as a family and decide on some priorities. Maybe a priority for you is to eat dinner as a family 4 times a week. Maybe a priority for you is to have family time on Saturday afternoons. Basically decide on those priorities based on what types of activities are gonna bring you closer together. What types of activities are gonna give you that quality time? And there is no right or wrong answer here. You decide as a family what are some priorities for you, and another family is gonna decide for themselves. So for example, you might like the idea of Saturday morning breakfast together as a family. However, you are the only person in your household who is a morning person. So if you implement that kind of a tradition or that kind of family time for your family, you're gonna end up eating breakfast with a table full of grumpy people. And that is not what you want. That is not how you're gonna get more family quality time. So just make sure that it works for your family. Now that you have your family priorities set, it's time to move to tip number 4, which is to establish some work priorities and parameters. And the best way to do that is to think about your long-term and short-term goals as far as your career goes. So think about where you want to be in 5 years, where you want to be next year, what do you want to accomplish? And once you have those goals, then you can set some specific priorities as far as what types of projects you want to be working on, what types of initiatives you want to be involved in. And that's going to help you decide on how to set some work limits. And when I say limits, I'm talking about your work schedule, your work commitments. So think about things like, what hours are you willing to work? Is it just 8 hours a day as your baseline, or are you willing to work a little bit longer? How much are you willing to travel for work so you're not missing out a lot of family time? And how often are you willing to participate in work events that are outside of your working hours? So whether that is a networking event or something like a happy hour at work. Because when you set those limits, it's going to help you decide when a situation comes up and there is an event coming up or there is a work trip, what your answer is going to be, because you have set those baselines for yourself. So now we have talked about priorities for your family and priorities for your career. However, you have to remember, when we talk about work-life balance, it's not just career and it's not just family. You have a lot of things packed into that life part of work-life balance. So I also want you to think about things like personal development, spirituality, and health. Because you need to remember about yourself. If all you do is put effort into your career and into your family and forgetting about yourself, pretty quickly you're gonna find yourself unfulfilled and unhappy. Because you know that in order to help everybody else, in order to take care of everybody else, you have to take care of yourself first. And I'm gonna include a free resource down below to help you set goals in the specific areas of your life. And if you are at the point where you are not even sure which area you should start with, which area is lacking the most, I am in the process of finalizing a life balance workbook that's kind of gonna walk you through assessment of your needs in each of those areas and help you set up those first steps. So if you are watching it a few weeks after it was published, it's gonna be included down below. And if you wanna be the first one to get notified, make sure that you are subscribed to my blog, which is also linked down below. And now let's move on to tip number 6 on how to be more effective in a work-life balance. And that is probably the hardest step of all, because it involves letting go of things and really deciding which areas, which things in your life can get shortchanged. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we cannot have everything at the same time. So we are gonna have to decide what things we are willing to let go. So basically, whatever is not your priority, think of what you can eliminate or what you can delegate so you can spend more time with your family or doing the things that you actually love to do. Maybe preparing a home-cooked meal every single night is not your priority. If that is the case, you can decide on having a takeout a few nights a week, or cooking one night and having leftovers the next. Maybe it's simple things like not ironing or not folding clothes, or deciding that you are no longer going to be cutting veggies, you're just gonna buy them pre-cut. And doing simple things like that is going to help you create more time in your day so you can concentrate on those priorities that you have set for yourself. And I have another video on that topic, so I'm going to link it up here. But basically figure out what you can shortchange, what you can delegate, eliminate, or streamline. Because as much as we all want to be superwomen, we can only do that for a short period of time. And then we're going to get burned out. And that's not the place where we really want to be at. And the last tip that I have for you to be more effective in balancing your career and family time, it is to be flexible and to evaluate on a regular basis. Now, you need to be flexible because things happen. Like I said at the beginning of this video, you cannot expect your life balance to look the same every single day. Your child is going to end up with a flu at that time when you are extremely busy at work. And you're gonna have to take some time off to take care of your child. Or you're gonna have a very important work trip come up during the time when one of your kids is participating in a sporting event. And that's just life. Those things are gonna happen. So be flexible. And also, as far as evaluating, you do need to check in with yourself on a regular basis to see if the work-life balance that you have created is still working for you. Because maybe your work travel schedule has worked for you in the past, but now that your kids are more involved in sports activities, it is no longer feasible for you. Or perhaps you're gonna realize that the Saturday afternoons that you spend doing some family activities and then Sunday preparing for the week ahead is leaving you very tired at the end of the weekend. So maybe you can decide to switch things around and do all the chores and prep on Saturdays and then spend the last day of the week on fun family time. So just remember that nothing is static. You can make small adjustments or big changes depending on what is happening in your life. Remember, the work-life balance is supposed to work for you. So if it's something is no longer working, it's time to make adjustments. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss any of my future ones. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.